Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar with SpeechModification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome to our Friday live question and answer class. We have these lessons each Friday at 12 o'clock Pacific time, and you can put your questions in the chat at any time. So use the chat to ask me questions either about today's topic or about anything else related to pronunciation, intonation, and American English, American accent training. We'll be looking today at a continuation of what we've been working on the last few weeks, which is looking at how words are spelled versus how they're pronounced. So there's many words in American English that the spelling really doesn't match the pronunciation well, and it can be difficult to know how to pronounce these words. Today's focus is going to be on common errors that I often hear. So things that you might not realize where the spelling is probably negatively influencing your pronunciation. Hi, nice to see you. Again, you can ask your questions at any time, and they can be on the topic or on something else, and I'll be checking periodically to make sure that I'm answering your questions. In the last few weeks, we looked specifically at vowel sounds versus spelling, and we talked about letter O, letter A, letter E, all of the vowel letters, and the various vowel sounds that they can make. So you can view those lessons on my website, speechmodification.com, and also on my channel page. You can go to past live streams. So if there's a particular sound or letter that you struggle with, many times people tell me, I have a hard time knowing what letter O should say in these words, or I often mispronounce words that have letter A. You can check out those lessons and go through, get some help with that. You can also go to my vowels playlist and look for any individual vowel sound and get help with that. I do have a few videos, and I'm making more that talk about specifically what each vowel letter does and how you pronounce the different vowel sounds. So check those out. Hi, Edgar. Nice to see you. Today I want to talk mostly about words in general, but a little bit about vowels, and I want to highlight a few common errors that I hear. So, for example, one of the errors that I frequently hear is on this word, which I'm going to write instead of saying. And what I hear people saying is that we see the word say, that has vowel A, as in gray day. And we see this word and we say it with the same vowel, says. But actually in this word, the vowel is not the A vowel, it's the eh vowel. So this word sounds like says, and that's the vowel in red tent. And so even though it's say, we have to say says in this word. Also watch out for the error in this word that the letter S will actually say the Z sound. So for many words at the end of the word, the letter S says Z rather than S. It's almost more common to have a Z sound there. So that's one of the common mistakes I hear on the word says. I do have a video specifically helping you practice that word and also practice this vowel eh and this vowel A. So you can check those out as well. Here's a similar example. We have the word gain. Again, that has vowel A. And then we have this word. And if I were British, I would say gain and again. But in American English, this vowel is not the A vowel. And again, in this case, it's the vowel eh. So I say it like this, again. And another important thing to note about this word is that I don't say this A sound either. I don't use a clear vowel here. I use the sound, vowel schwa. That's because the stress in again falls on the syllable again, and this is just a short, unstressed syllable that sounds like So I have gain, but again, again. So this is a common error from many words that have this letter A at the beginning. They actually have the schwa sound, the sound So again, across, among, about, etc. That's always because the second syllable in those words is stressed rather than the first. So we have say and says, gain and again. And another one, this was today's community challenge. So by community challenge, I mean that on my channel page, Speech Modification Seattle, here on YouTube, I have daily little quizzes and polls and questions that you can use to test your knowledge about pronunciation and see what other people think. And then I will always give the answer the next day, related to a topic in my videos or in this Friday class. So today's question was whether or not these letters in the word cause have the same pronunciation as the same letters in this word. And that was a true-false question. And actually, it's false. These are, again, different. Cause has vowel ah. And again, here's my Z sound. So letters SE say Z in this word, cause. That ah vowel is rounded and a back vowel. It's the same vowel that's in caught and law. And you can get help for vowel ah in my video about vowel ah and in my playlist. You can also go to my 5x5 challenge or my Sounds of English challenge to learn about the common errors for these vowels. And then in the word because, there's a lot going on with spelling here. So we actually have an I vowel here because that's unstressed. So it's a reduced vowel. It's not because, it's because. And then it's not because, it's not the same vowel, it's the vowel schwa. Again, that's my sound. And so it sounds like because. Similarly, because rhymes with the word was. I also hear errors on this vowel. Really, if English had spelling that matched the sounds, was would really be spelled like this, with an vowel and a z vowel. So I can try learning and pairing those words together. Was, because, cause. So those are the examples that I wanted to highlight from the vowels. There, of course, are many other vowel errors. And as I said earlier, you can review our earlier classes and lessons and my vowels playlist for that. You might also want to check on speechmodification.com on my free practice site. There are many, many lessons, recordings that you can use, videos, and things to help you with these patterns. We've done a lot lately with vowels, and vowels are one of the most confusing parts about spelling in American English. So it can be helpful to understand the vowel sound system and to get oriented to that. We have a question. I learned that there are two ways to make S and Z sounds, but I can only do one, with the tip of my tongue touching the back of my bottom teeth. And by doing that, I have problem pronouncing words. Okay, I would say for S and Z, he or she is saying they have problems with words that end with DZ, like words. Yes, and so the way we tend to make an S and Z sound typically has to do with the length and the shape of our tongue, and Americans do the same thing. Their tongue can be up or it can be down. The most important thing about S and Z is that there's a little bit of space between the tongue and the top of the mouth, and the tongue is forward in the mouth. So if you have trouble with words doing from a D to a Z, what I would suggest is trying to just isolate those sounds. And when I say word, just with the D, it's the tip of my tongue going up to form that D sound. So you can try it with words that just have D first. So try dad, dude. I'm doing multiple Ds so I can feel that my tongue is touching up. Now, when I say the word words or dads, I actually use a different part of my tongue to make that D sound. If I use the tip of my tongue, dads, I can't really move smoothly from the D to the Z because my tongue tip has to move too much. So when I say dads, I use more of my tongue and further back on my tongue to make the D, so the tip of my tongue is ready as soon as I can release my tongue to make the Z sound. This is a little hard to see and understand, but if you can try saying the incorrect way, dad, z, you can see how my tongue doesn't move smoothly. It's too much of a distance between the two, versus dad, dads. I have more of my tongue sealing off and it's ready to go right into that Z sound. So try just the D and Z, ds, 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 and then try putting it in words like dads and heads, etc. Hopefully that will help you. You can see a lesson about this, a similar lesson when I'm talking about the repeated phrase practice for in the, going from the letter sound N to the sound TH. It's a similar situation where we have to co-articulate, we have to move our tongue a different way to coordinate those two sounds. Okay, so yes, I hope I answered your question. You're saying it's very hard to move from that D position to the Z position. And so you may need to have a slightly different D and slightly different Z together when you're putting them together. Experiment for you and see how you can make that sound. And it doesn't matter so much where your tongue is as long as the sounds are coming together. So focus on the sound rather than the tongue position, if that makes any sense. Okay, great. Thank you for your question. Please feel free to keep asking questions as we go. So as I mentioned, you can find lots of help for vowels on speechmodification.com and on my YouTube channel, my vowels playlist, and individual videos. Let's talk now a little bit more about some other consonant sounds, other spellings that can cause pronunciation errors. So I want to look at words that have the letter X and the different pronunciations that X can do. So when I see these letters, I think there's two letters, there should be two sounds. But if I just say the letter X, that's actually the E vowel, the K sound, and the S sound. So X, or the word X, is actually three sounds together. So this is the pronunciation for E and X that's in words like text and extra, other words like that. That's kind of the most what we think of. We think of the letter X and the sound X. But in some other words, it's actually a different vowel and different consonants. So for example, in the word executive, the X part of that word is the vowel I rather than the vowel E, and it's a two voiced consonants. So K and S, K and S, have no voicing, versus G and Z, G and Z, are voiced. It's the same combination, the same position for my tongue for these sounds, but I have the word extra, but the word executive. And then one other combination on the word exit, I have the same vowel as in text and extra, the E vowel, the red tent vowel. But again, I have my voiced G and Z sounds, exit rather than exit. So you may have just one pronunciation for the X, the E and the X, that you tend to use in all of these words. And so knowing which words say X, which say igs, and which say eggs can be very useful. I do have a lesson for that, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat for you. And this has a word list as well as some practice recordings, so you can learn which words say which and learn to pronounce them correctly. So here in the chat, this is a link to this lesson on speechmodification.com. You can also go on speechmodification.com and use the search tools to find any answers to any questions for which I have lessons. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that. I think that's a really good resource. I try to provide a great deal of information there for you for free. So on speechmodification.com, I have, you can see in the top menu, here, go to the free practice, and you want the online practice free trial. And that's where you're going to see the most lessons and videos for you. And then just go ahead and use the search box here. And so, for example, if I was looking for letter X, I could just type in words with X. And then it'll show you all of the related lessons and videos. So there's some free downloads that you can get. And I can also see, okay, here's a lesson about difficult words. Some of those have X. Here's how to pronounce words with letter X, how to pronounce numbers. So everything related will be there. And so this is the lesson where I gave you the link, and you can see the different categories of sounds, a video about how to pronounce executive, and some recordings to listen to and practice. So I see there's some comments. We're going to go back to our comments earlier about saying the D and the Z sound. So when she's asking, he or she's asking, is it because when D is followed by Z, I need to pronounce the Z with the top of my tongue pointing up? So words. No, my tongue still goes down for that Z. It's just that if I have to go from the one position to the other, it's too much movement. So I have to find a way to have less movement for my tongue. So we have another request. The word literally is a challenging word for many people to pronounce. So let's talk about it. This word has lots of R's and L's, which are challenging for people. And then it has what I call a flap T. So where we don't really say lit with a aspirated T, this T sounds a little bit more like a light D sound. So when I'm saying the word literally, first I have to start with my tongue behind my teeth for the L. I have to make a lid, light D sound. And then my li. Okay, so what's going on here? So I like to teach this as thinking about the various syllables and then combining them. So I think about it as li. And you can work from the back. So start with li, then try ali. That's pretty easy so far. Now try early. And lastly, literally. And then you have to begin to speed up, literally. The stress in literally is on the first syllable. So that one is stretched out, and then the others go more quickly, literally. And I literally just today added a video on my free practice, which breaks down pronunciation of literally for you. It's also available if you type in the search box on my YouTube channel. You'll find this video. Many people have requested help for pronouncing literally, so check that out. It breaks it down even more than I did for you in this lesson, and you can use that for practice. That's a really good question. Thank you for pointing that out. And your other question was the phrase a little bit of. So again, you probably notice we tend to put this all together. Americans will run that phrase together, a little bit of. And so there's a lot going on there as well. So the word little, again, I don't say little with an aspirated T. It sounds a little bit more like little. I also forgot to mention, we did it when we practiced, but when I have an L towards the end, literally, I tend to have this sound, the vowel schwa before that L, and that happens here with little as well, that it's really little. And so you may have difficulty with making that flap T sound. You may find the O sound difficult. You can look at my video about how to say L at the ends of words, and you can also look at my many videos for how to say T in the middle of words. That will help you with both of those patterns. Work on them separately and then begin putting them together. So a little bit of, here I'm linking the bit and the of, and again, this T sounds a little bit more like a D, a little bit of. Also watch that even though the word of is spelled with letter F, it has a voiced V sound. So I often hear people saying of instead of, a little bit of. So kind of breaking down what's happening, which parts are most difficult for you, practicing those parts by themselves, and then beginning to put it together in the full phrase. I hope you'll find that helpful. Great. So another question. Kurt wanted to know for the word exactly, which kind of X we use. So exactly has the same as executive. It's exactly. Exactly. I actually think it could be ig or exactly. But I'm going to show you how to check. So I often recommend looking up words in the dictionary, and I like the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, and I use it myself. So when people ask me about pronunciation and I'm not sure, I will just check the dictionary. So for exactly, I'm hearing an unstressed first syllable there. So I'm thinking that it's probably vowel I, as in big and didn't and different, but I'm going to double check with my Oxford Dictionary. I like Oxford Learner's Dictionary because it shows you the British English and the American English pronunciation. And so let's look for exactly. And what we'll find is, yes, it is the vowel I. So I can, as I begin to work on American English vowels, I can learn that that I says that letter, lowercase I in the IPA is the I sound. I can also listen to it. Maybe. My volume is down. And then I can hear it and repeat it.
Exactly.
Exactly. That helps me begin to form a new pronunciation in my mind, learn it and hear it. So even if I can't read those symbols yet, exactly, I can listen to it. I can also check British. Oh, in this case, they have the same, basically the same pronunciation.
Exactly.
Exactly, but a little bit more of a aspirated T there. We tend to do the flap T exactly, or the stopped T there. Okay, so hopefully that answered your question. Many times words with X are challenging because they have those consonant clusters. So people may leave off the K sound or the Z sound when they're trying to put that word together. It's helpful to practice, especially words like text and texts. We have to do quite a few consonants in a row. So you can break it down, pronounce part of the word, and then begin to build it up into putting all of the words together. I do have a video talking about how to pronounce difficult words like texts. And you saw when I was searching for the X that my difficult words lesson came up there, and you can see some examples there. So both pronunciation can make things difficult, and also knowing based on spelling how to pronounce something can make it difficult. So the dictionary is a really useful tool for learning exactly what sounds are in the word, as opposed to looking at the letters and having to guess. Okay, so we have another request, which is, can you please pronounce this sentence? She's good at her job. In my pronunciation, there are two flap T's, one at the end of good and one at the end of at. Yeah, I think so. So she's good at her job. Yeah, that's because I'm going to be linking good and at. Good at. So I don't do a full D there. Good at, that would break it too much. And good at her, at her. So again, yeah, that T is linked as well. And I noticed just now that I also use a reduction here, where I would say good at her job rather than good at her job. If I said the H, then I would use a stopped T there, good at her job. But if I link the two, get good at her job, then the H gets reduced, dropped off, and this T turns into a flap T. So it sounds like good at her job. And sometimes I do rewrite these words to look at them and think about them a different way, because when I see the breaks between words, I may have a tendency to want to pronounce them the way I've always pronounced them. I've never seen that word before, good at her. And so if I see that, I can more likely get the correct linking and the correct sounds. Yes, so you and I pronounce that the same way with those two flap T's. Good question. Okay, so we have about 5 more minutes. Let's talk about a few more things related to sounds and spelling. So we've talked about some common vowel-related errors. We talked about how to pronounce different ways that we pronounce the letter X in words. I think lastly today, I want to highlight some elements about letter S. So when we were looking at the word says and some of our previous words, we were noticing that S very often says Z at the ends of words. So in any place in the word, the letter S can say the sound S, like yes. It can say the sound Z, and very commonly at the end of word it does. So for example, the word was, or in the middle with an SE, the word use, those are Z sounds. Then there's some other pronunciations for S that you might be doing correctly or you might not have thought about or realized. One is the sound sh. That's I should make it skinnier. This is the IPA symbol for the sound sh. And so words like sure have the SH sound. So in some dialects of English, this word would be more like sûr. In American English, it's sure with the SH sound. So that S can be misleading. And then lastly, the S will sometimes say zh, like in measure. And so we don't really have a set spelling for this zh sound. Sometimes you'll see it written like that. It's voiced and it's a continuing sound. And basically it's the voiced version of sh. So when I say sh and zh, my mouth is in the same position, but this one is voiced and this one is voiceless. So words like measure, decision, those have that zh sound. And so that's a challenging one for some people where they may mispronounce that letter S because they don't realize that it can make all of these different sounds. Mostly I focus on where S says Z because this is the most frequent error that I hear. And it's also very important for grammar in English. So many times I add the letter S to make something plural or for a verb ending or for a possessive. And if I'm mispronouncing that, not putting the Z sound on, it may sound like I'm making an error in grammar when really I just have a pronunciation difference. So you can see I have a video that talks about letter S when it says S and when it says Z. And also you can see my videos about plurals and verb tenses on my channel page and on speechmodification.com. Thank you guys for your comments and your compliments. I really enjoy having your questions and feedback because it helps me highlight what is valuable to teach and what videos I should be making, what topics we should cover in this class. If you're watching this as a replay, you can put your questions and comments in the comments. I do always go back and read those and give you information about where you can find the answers to those questions, what resources I have for you. So I'm going to talk briefly about some additional resources. I think we'll talk about this topic again next week because there's just so much to say regarding sounds and spelling. It really does cause a lot of issues for pronunciation where otherwise you would be pronouncing the word correctly, but you see the spelling of that word and you think something should change and should be different there. So we'll have a few more examples of that over the coming week on our community page. And then in next Friday's class, we'll talk about this topic again. I do have some live not free. I have some classes coming up here in the Seattle area. So if you're in this area, I hope you can join me in the month of June on Wednesday nights in Bellevue. We're going to have a 4-week fundamentals class. And the first class is free, so you can come to that one and check it out, see if you like it, and then join for all 4 weeks if you so desire. If you're not here in this area, the same content that I'm going to be teaching in that live class is also in my 6 weeks course online. So if you go to speechmodification.com, you'll find that course if you go to my courses page. So up again here at the top menu, you want to check out courses. And this is for online courses. So all of these courses are low cost. They have a 2-week free trial. And the one I recommend starting with if you're, regardless of your language background and regardless of what level you're at, is the 6-week course. This one is really great for going over the most common errors and accent patterns that you have in your speech. And it teaches you step by step how to work on changing your speech, how to practice, and how to really get those changes to happen in your real life communication. So that's really what can be very challenging for many people, is that when they're in a class like this, when they're listening to just one word in one video, you can say those words correctly, but then when you go to talk, it's not necessarily there for you. And so how do you practice to make that change happen in your everyday speech? And you can walk through all of the steps of that here in this course. So I highly recommend that. Again, I also do have a Facebook page and a new Facebook group where I'm posting some free lessons and units so that you can use those resources. And again, I showed you a few times today on speechmodification.com. Much of my material is free. So you can go to my free practice, you can search for what you're looking for, and you can drop me an email and say, here's my question, where can I find the answer to this? And I'll help you out. So I hope you can do that. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, I ask you to do that because that lets YouTube know that this is a valuable class and that I should be able to keep doing it and that people can join in. It'll also let you know when I've uploaded a new video or when I'm hosting the class, and you can click on the notifications bell and decide how much YouTube is going to tell you. So it can send you an email, or it can just you can just be subscribed, and then my videos will show up as one of your choices when you're looking at your home screen. So I hope you'll do that. Yes, okay, so next week we'll meet again, talk about the same topic, take your questions. Thank you so much for your participation today and your great questions. It was wonderful having you all here in class. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound American, you can do it. speechmodification.com.